that. I finally got you. Thanks for repeating that slowly for me. Kilo 5, Mike Juliet Alpha, November 7, Tango Whiskey Papa. Really like copy on your signal here. I'll give you a report on the next over. Handle here is Carl, Kilo Alpha, Radio Lima. Back to you.
Even though I have a mountain of radios already on my desk that I'm doing a radio receiver test with, all of my favorite radios to see which one reigns supreme, but also which one sounds really good. It's a thing we don't really think about, but one of the most important features of a radio. Regardless, a radio showed up today for me to take a look at. This is the Xiegu X6200, and quite frankly, everything has to stop now because I want to take a look at cool new tech. And I gotta say, just from the looks of this, it is such a cool looking radio. They really have improved upon their design of radios. Really, you can see the refinement in this radio. It's super cool. Big shout out to Radioddity for sending me this radio to take a look at. There is a link in the video description if you want to take a look at the Xiegu offering. And note, there is a coupon code that you get a discount over anything over at Radioddity's website if you use the one in the video description. Let's take a look. Now, it's nice to do this walk around the radio when you have kind of a stylish radio like this one. It actually looks really good. Spoiler alert, there's nothing underneath these Allen head plates. This is just a divot. And then on the flip side, there's actually a little hole here, which could have been an accessory port, but you can literally see wound toroids when you take this off. So no big thing there if you were wondering if you looked at other videos and you didn't know what was behind it. But anyway, so controls, this is a non-touch screened radio, but a hidden value of it being a non-touch screen is you don't get smudges. And this is a really pretty screen when it's on, which you'll see here shortly. And I think that's actually kind of a perk. Anyway, there are a number of controls in the front which we'll go over. The band switches are up on top along with the mode, and it calls it out by name, AM, FM, single sideband. There is a PTT button on top because this does have a microphone somewhere. Right there is the microphone, as well as an A2B or a B2A switch, this, that, and other. There's an ATU, as I mentioned, an automatic tuning unit. Again, this is something that you would use if your antenna's kind of out of whack, but Xiegus have always been really impressive with their tuner capabilities, taking 10-to-1 plus antennas and bringing them right into usable frequencies. You can probably use this with a 9-to-1 unun-based random wire antenna is my guess, but I haven't proven that yet. Hopefully I'll have time to take it in the field to be able to take a look at a better testing case there. On the side, USB-C, heck yeah. So these ports work as a computer to radio as far as control, or a hosted radio where you plug other devices into it. It'll take an SD card for firmware upgrades. I don't know if this will record. That's something we're going to look into. Your speaker jack, your key jack, and your accessory jack. This is for if you're connecting an amplifier for band control and changes. Your mic connection, which I'm nonplussed by the jack there for mic, but you know, it's fine. 12-volt powers here, and there's your antenna jack. I noted that it doesn't seem to have a ground lug anywhere that I could find, which is useful if you wanted to go man-pack portable with this, and by man-pack I mean handy-talkie style. Usually if you're on HF and you've got a whip coming out of the top here, you want your chassis to have some kind of a length of wire to act as a radial if you're going to be hand PTTing. And I have small hands, and the fact that I can hold this and PTT it can kind of give you an idea of the shape of this. It's a really good size. In the back here, under the Xiegu name, there is a slider for the battery. So slide back and the battery should pop out. This is a 3200 milliamp 7.6 volt battery pack, and it's pretty light. It's actually similar in size, and in fact, let me compare it. I'll tell you exactly. 500-ish more milliamps than that of the 705 battery pack, so you may get a little bit more life out of it. I'll test it with battery draw, and we'll get a better idea of how much this thing pulls. This does have an FCC ID there. You can see it right there. So if you were curious, that's it. I'm going to try and do a lot of this video in real time so you can kind of get a better feel of what it's like to operate this radio. So let's give it an antenna. We'll worry about the mic later. And power it on, holding down the power button. A little light turns on. It says Xiegu, which is kind of nice. And you hear a click, and it starts right up. That was real-time, no edits on the startup. Now there is a front-firing speaker. Volume control is this left upper dial. It is a center dial and then outer bezel. And it goes all the way up to 100 for volume, which is pretty loud. I'd say the distortion point comes in at about 70, 75 when it starts getting a little crackly out of the speaker. And then your AF gain, sorry, your RF gain, wait, what is this doing? Now, interestingly enough, while this is a center twister with an outer collar, you really only click to change controls. So there's volume, and if we click it again, that's going to give the squelch, which you can turn on and off. Click it again, and there's your RF gain. Most of the time, you can just leave this on volume unless you're playing around with the RF gain. I don't use squelch very often. Now, a note on control, there's a VFO tiny little nub here with an outer control that changes the waterfall. So that's the spring setting. There's your summer setting. Autumn, sure, we're going with the holiday themed. Winter, gray, it's quite a lot. Copper, looks a lot like gray. Pink, pink's actually not that bad. Is that even pink? I didn't look that pink. Jet, which is pretty cool. I liked this one, HSV, that's the one I liked a lot. But VFO-wise, you sometimes want just the VFO wheel set to the kilohertz side, which is where this little green identifier is. And if you click the FST button, I believe that stands for fast, you'll see the green box move. I leave it on that one there. And now the VFO will scan at the kilohertz level, which is a little bit smoother. But if you want like a faster scan, go back to this guy for VFO, and now you're going at the megahertz level, which can be a little bit faster, although a little bit more fiddly depending on how you like to control your radios. Looks like there's somebody in there on single sideband in the evening here in Southern California.
And we're picking up now the south and the tech. And a lot of the Arizona stations in California really coming in now. WA5JM said you're 10 over 9.
Yeah, roger, roger. Of course, you're running power, so you're about 20 over 9. We're just running 100 watts into a 3-element beam up about 80 feet. Yeah, we've worked you several times, Rick. The handle here is Paul. We're in East Texas, near Huntsville, Texas.
Yeah, super signal, Paul, and I commend you on the powerful signal and the great station you put together. It's quite something to get an antenna that high up in the air. Well done. WA5JM Shad.
Kilo India 6, November Alpha Zulu.
Who's the Kilo India?
Kilo India 6, November Alpha Zulu. Name here is Josh.
Kilo India 6 November?
Kilo India 6, November Alpha Zulu. November Alpha Zulu.
Again?
Kilo India 6, November Alpha Zulu.
Again?
Kilo India 6, November Alpha Zulu.
Roger, KI6 November Alpha Zulu. You're 4 by 5.
Copy, copy. You are 10 over S9. Name here is Josh. Josh in Cerritos, California. QSL.
Thank you, Doc, or Josh. 73. I'm beaming into the U.S. Gulf Coast right now, so not quite on you, but I hear you okay. KI6 November Alpha Zulu. Lots of Queen Sugar Baker. The signals go up and down, so sometimes you give the call sign, it's gone. Always give the call sign twice. Under those type of conditions, it's always good to give the call sign a couple of times back to back. But no problem. KI6 November Alpha Zulu, good night. Go 6 Charlie Queen.
He's done with that. He don't want to work me anymore. Now, before getting too deep into this video review, a funny thing happened on a POTA activation where I took the X6200 out to Chino Hills State Park. I was using a dually antenna, the one that Mike Kate MRD over at Ham Radio Tube has already taken a look at as part of a review I'm working on. And I had a bit of a problem when using it in the 9-to-1 configuration, or the non-resonant capable functionality of that antenna. So here's the problem. We're getting AM bleed over. Bit of a selectivity problem. So Josh, why is that happening? Well, if you were to I'm sitting here going through this. The last antenna we had connected to it was an adjustable vertical. Its resonance spot was the frequency we were on, or at least the band of 20 meters, right, 14 megahertz. And when I was at home testing this radio, I was using my step IR, and you know the step IR adjusts itself to resonance for the frequency you're operating on, and I can actually go in there and manually control it as well. Further, I have an AM broadcast band filter on my primary radio antenna, the step IR. So I might have been masking this with the higher gain of reception on my step IR by having that band stop placed in line. That's not good. Now, I learned since then that there's actually a couple of commercially available AM broadcast filters that are on BNC that are available for this issue, and I have placed a link in the video description so that you guys can go check that out if you have this radio. Now, there's a couple of very easy ways to mitigate this. The first one, and as I demonstrated on my Parks on the Air activation, that if you stick to mono-banded antennas, there is almost none of this effect whatsoever. I was using a loaded vertical. Here at my house, I'm using a mono-band beam antenna, or a Yagi, that is tuned for resonance on the band that is in operation at the time. It seems that if you're using a dipole or a linked dipole, or possibly even like a linked end-fed, that you won't experience some of this AM bleed over. It's possible, though, if you're using a 49-to-1 unon, that you might get some of this, particularly if you are very close to the AM broadcast station. So if you're tracking what I'm throwing down, there seems to be some kind of an issue with the way that the filtering is in the X6200. And since it is an SDR, at least from the best of my understanding, I am unsure if that is something that can be firmwared out, or if it's something that you need to use this filter in most situations if you're using a non-resonant antenna, or possibly even some of the multi-band antennas. So keep that in mind. Controls are pretty self-explanatory, but it is a bit unique to this platform. If you've used another Xiegu radio like the 6100, then you're going to be right at home. But the Gen button is your general settings at the bottom. The App button is the applications that are on board. So your modem, your SWR scan. So if we do that right now, if we go start, we'll see an SWR readout, maybe. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. Okay. Well, worry about that later. That doesn't seem to be working. Voice call is going to pull voice standard messages that you can record if you want to. Going back, let's hit app again. And then FT8 decoder. What the heck? Let's find FT8 noises. Well, yeah, that seems to work just fine. I guess you... N0FUK! That's funny. Anyway, yeah, I guess you could run this when you're doing FT8 in the background, which is kind of handy if you're so inclined to do FT8 things that way. Under key, well, let's turn that off. A key, the key button, that's going to be the type of Morse code you're running. So whether you're on a straight key, what is that? A Suze keyer? Okay. Suze key, right? Okay, so I'm guessing that's iambic. 15 words per minute, that's me. Iambic B is fine. Tone hertz is fine. You can adjust this, and your tone level. Tone level is going to be your output for CW. Massage. So I guess this is... Ooh. Legit? Can we plug in a... Is there a USB port on this? There is, but it's USB-C. What if... All right, big brain stuff here. If we go like that... Oh! It works! There's a mouse! What? No way. CQ. Wait. CQ. CQ Kilo India 6. Oop, that's not it. 6 November Alpha Zulu. D-pad over. Yeah, buddy. What if it's CQ? Why is this bouncing all over the place? What are you bouncing on? CQ POTA DEKI6NAZ K. Save. Message 2. Let's do keyboard is going to be BK TU for thank you. UR 5NN BK. And then we can say, I don't know, CA BK. Save. Save. And that, okay. So hitting message once, I think is the CW messages. If not, you know, I'm sure we can get it if we go back to key. Yeah, message. So you got message bank here. I did CQ, blah, blah, blah. We're not in CW mode. If you do it again, you got a voice message, which, hey, there you go. You can record voice. So let's do that. CQ, 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 Kilo India 6, November Alpha Zulu, Parks on the air.
Record that.
CQ, 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 Kilo India 6, November Alpha Zulu, Parks on the air. That's a bit robot-y. This is your noise blanker or noise reducer, and you have depth control. So noise reducer, noise blanker, two different things, but you have both controlled here. So let's go up a little bit here. Now, noise reducer is usually used for single sideband operation. In this case, we're playing around with FT8 because those are the signals we have on right now. Turning it off, you're going to get a lot more noise. Also, you never want noise reducer or noise blanker turned on if you are doing digital modes, FYI. Well, it was pretty close. Message button is for setting the messages. Then you go back to app, modem, and we want to change the mode to CW. We go back to message, and we should be able to, there you go. Cool. And I am on a dummy load, so yeah, hey, we're not going to hang around. But if somebody replied, I could say that, because I'm obviously not on a SOTA or POTA, so keep that in mind. Hey, it's Future Josh. I'm back again. Also, I'd like to let you know that I will be doing a follow-on video to this X6200 video to talk about its power output and its power consumption, as well as some of the other accessories I've used and some other handy features that I've kind of learned along the way when using it, because it is kind of like a Swiss Army radio in terms of the features that it packs in and some of the niceties that it has. Now, DFN is a little bit more useful if you are in a high noise environment like I am, and you hear a signal here. Just keep in mind, if you have the noise reducer on, you're reducing all the noise. It helps with the voice, but sometimes it can lower the voice below the noise floor or enough that it becomes harder to hear, at least from my experience. So let's turn it on, and we'll get you listening to it on and off.
I work for a bigger company, so I work for a civil engineering company, and a lot of my clients are civil engineering clients, and I also have some architecture clients. So, you know, it's a real good business to get into. So good luck with that for sure. And it's a hard business to get into, but you know, as long as you pay your dues, I think you'll do okay there, Eli. Go ahead. Yeah, that's what I heard a lot now. All right, Eli, well, we'll let you go. I'm going to make a few more contacts here, but good to hear you on there, and good luck with your endeavors there, man. And,
sounds pretty good.
And great to
with
hear
the louder
somebody so
signal.
young on the radio. I'm 51 years old, so again, relatively, I'm young in this hobby, but you got a lot more years under me. So good to hear you there, Eli. We'll let you go, and you have a great winter weekend. Good luck with everything you're doing, and if you hear me out here, give me a shout anytime. K06EKT K5ABQ. This is K5ABQ Kilowatt 5 Alpha Bravo Quebec, and name is Steve Sierra Tango Echo Victor Echo, located in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And you're about a 5'7" here tonight. Over.
Now, I should note, noise blanker is more like for spurs that you have that's over the frequency you're trying to listen to. It's like a notch filter type capability, your noise blanker. And you can adjust that somewhat or where you want to put it. Anyway, it's not going to change much on a single sideband voice. The noise reducer, though, not bad. Again, some of these lower signals, we're not going to pull them out.
Roger, Bernie. Well, you're doing a good job. About a 5'7", pretty solid here. I will copy about 100%, and definitely running a good job. And so I'm running a little bit of power, about 600 watts or so, through an off-center set dipole, and run the IC7300 as well. You know, everybody runs an IC7300.
I must admit, I got distracted just using this radio, trying to make contacts with it. And yeah, it's QRP, so it's a little bit difficult, and I am at home with a high noise floor, which, you know, on my end, more a receive issue. There's probably other stations I'm missing that may be able to hear me better, but not the point. All right, so rounding this out, there's a DFL button that basically lets you change your passband. If you go to filter 1, that's a 2700 kilohertz bandwidth. 2 is what I generally run, 2400, and then there's a 3, which is even more slaughtered down. I believe you can adjust this. Where is it? Yeah, there you go. You can change this. The filter width. It's just shifting the passband is what it's doing, which this should be the other one then, right? Ah, okay, that's how you do it. You click the button. There you go. So passband filtering, let me show you if I can give you an example of this. Let me get out of here. Where's a big station? Let's find a big station. All right, so we got a big signal here. This guy's hugely powerful, but let's say we had some kind of odd interference to one side of him or not. It was kind of making a distracting conversation. Well, we can slide the passband. Let's say we want to get out of the way of it. And we go like that. We slide this guy over 2. Wait for him to come back.
Well, you're still, you're under a 9 now, but you're very cute.
I'm not used to the bottom one being the thing. Let's just default it. There you go.
So I like to have the option. See, I could drop my power down if you want me to let's see, I could do that. Let me show you what it sounds like if I drop my power.
That's if we go in and we change the passband, so we're only passing this part in the middle.
This is MQGG running 8 watts, but
Now,
I still have a beam-in.
you can just filter it by changing the filter sizes, right, by trying to throttle down. But if you've got something that's kind of in the middle or to the side of that single sideband, you may want to just slide it off a little bit, but you know, let's default back. So I didn't go into the gen button, I just told you it was there, and notice that I functioned a lot of the radio without ever really dipping into that, but let's go into that because that's where a lot of your settings are in this radio. So under settings 1, that's where you get your preamp, your attenuator, your AGC, which is set to auto to start, transmit power 1 watt. No wonder I wasn't, who set that? What dummy did that? Mic select has a capability of doing auto. I don't know how that works, so I was just saying handle because that's literally the handle mic, and we'll talk about this in a bit. This is a pretty slick mic. Anyway, so built-in mic gain, don't need to mess with that right now. I haven't tested that, but handle mic I gave a little bit behind it. I think that might be too much. I listened to my recording. It wasn't great. Line in gain, line out, monitor level, we're not monitoring, and compressor. If you're doing single sideband, I leave the compressor on. If you're doing digital though, turn that off because it's going to be too much. Anyway, if you hit next, Now you get an EQ, like you get your RF EQ, your wide FM EQ, all kinds of fun stuff that you can play around with. I'm not going to give you recommended settings here because I haven't tested any of that. And then that takes you back to the first page. Now, exit out of that, go to settings 2, and here you can change your RIT, your ZIT, or exit, which is going to be your transmit and receive offset or listen frequency, and your transmit frequency if you're doing CW. You would use one if you're working a pileup, and you would use another one if you were working someone who had a pileup, like a DX station. Now, there are FM or F buttons here, and these buttons can be assigned here, and right now this one is set to your preamp, your noise reducer, and then your filter button, which is pretty nice. So that's pretty capable. SPLE, what is that? SPLE, split? I don't know. And yeah, just in case you wanted to know, that is split operation, so default that guy out of here. And you can change whether you go to earphone or speaker, charger on, off, you get the idea. All right, under display, whoo buddy, there's a lot of stuff you can mess with here. Now, I'm not planning on deep diving all of this, but I will say that you can change your RF span here, and that might be advantageous for some of you. So if we go back, yeah, now you got a smaller space you're looking at, but it embiggens some of what you're seeing as far as the received signal. And why this could be helpful, going back to our DFL in the passband, you could see a spur that's right in the conversation you're having. Something, a local interference generator, who knows. You could use that wider bandwidth to be able to set this, and it's something that sometimes just a button on some of these radios, but in this case you just hit display and you change your RF frequency span. I don't know what FFT is, but anyway. That's your radio controls, kind of everything we covered. Then you got your deep system menu, which is just a button click here. This gives you things like time setting, system info, firmware, because you can do a firmware upgrade off the SD card. WLAN, so this has wireless LAN settings, Bluetooth. Now this server, let's click on that, or go over to it. Remember, it's not a touchscreen. Oh, we don't need that. And we'll go into that guy. And yeah, you can set this for remote control using something called VWF View. And that allows this remote control capability with the WLAN of this radio. And that can be helpful, but, you know, depends on what you want to do. I think it's, oh, that's funny. I hit default, and it defaulted to the 6100. Interesting. I have a feeling that this radio is running a lot of 6100 software guts. The Chinese characters is the language setting, so if you click on that, it asks you what language you want to be in, and then, of course, your factory reset. Now, for Bluetooth, I haven't tested that yet, but I'm hopeful that we might be able to get some capabilities of connecting it to maybe that ICOM speaker headset thing, which is really quite nice, and I'm hoping the Chinese radio just won't care. It'll try to connect to anything. And yeah, sure enough, it's, hey, look at that. All kinds of, there's all these devices around me. And then up top, because I didn't really go into too much detail, you have your band select, which, let's go through the bands of operation. 80 meters, 60, 40, 30 meters, 20 meters, 17, 15, 12, 10, that's 6, FM, interesting. Oh, so calming. 0.
4608.
Come back.
Airport inside American 2004.
Airband.
I mentioned 220 knots, quarter visual approach, 25 West American 2004. So 0 join fine, I just report
It sounds pretty good. You're off frequency.
until CG 120.95, I'm in cool 648, good night.
Maintain 250, W101.
So let's say you found a frequency like, maybe you're a boater, an avid boater like I am, 14.300, let's hit memory, and we'll save VFO, and there you go. Now you got VFO A, 14.300 megahertz with the, mode AM. That's not what we want. You gotta get out of that. Upper sideband, back to memory. I don't like that. Let's erase it, save it. Now you got upper sideband. Boom. That's where we want to be. Now coming up for air a little bit here, I wanted to talk about this mic because they did a really good job with this mic. You have an F input for inputting your frequencies, but if you hit the button, it allows you to switch bands. You can change that, I believe. Switch between your A and B mode, your mode of operation, which if you're on voice modes, it's going to go through, it's going to go through the whole list, unlike the buttons up here, which have selections for certain types, single sideband, CW, and AM, FM. But this will go through all of them, so you can find what you're looking for, upper sideband. If you go to memory mode, though, that's where we pull out 14.300, so that's how you can do that. You can control volume. You can control frequency. I believe the up and down buttons, up and down buttons go band. Interesting, I didn't expect that. I didn't know we needed that level of band control. Anyway, and then the F1 buttons are programmable. So if we hit that, there's your pre-selector. We don't need that. Now, interestingly enough, I've added two channels here. One for this 40 meter and one for the Maritime Mobile Net. And I tagged it with the little home icon. So my assumption was if I hit the home button while I'm in memory mode, it should take me back to 14.300, but it doesn't seem to do that, so I'm not sure what that does. And then your second control turns on your noise reducer. Noise reducer is the preferred one instead of the noise blanker in most cases. And then the third button will change your filter width, which I leave it on 2400. Remember, these are all set. You can set these in the app, and I showed you how to do that earlier. Now, something to note, this mic is really heavy, and I'm actually curious if they added weight to it. So we're going to test that right now. Let's slide the radio out of the way a second. I'm going to disconnect this mic. I just don't know why it would be as heavy as it is. Because it is ridiculously heavy. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. I would pop this out. I don't think the weight is needed here. I think it makes it feel more valuable, but it's not needed. In fact, I haven't decided if I'm going to buy this yet, but if I ever did buy one of these, I would get rid of that because it's just adding useless weight. I knew it though. I just knew it. At first blush, this is a really nice radio. For $800, I think you do get a lot. Of course, this is QRP, so for those of you that aren't really about that QRP life, even though we are in the high side of the solar cycle, there are a number of features in here that you just really can't get. And the level of refinement that I've seen Xiegu make from the 5105 to the 6100 to now the 6200 is pretty impressive. This is very much a 6100 upgrade. There are parts of this radio, though, that are more, I would say, more aimed to directly compete with the 705. And at its price point, I think it's not a bad option. Time will tell. I need to take this out and do a bit of operating with it. But so far, I'm quite impressed, even though this is a bit of a price bump over when the 6100 came out. Is it worth the difference? While the radio works very much the same feature set in exactly how you use it. I believe a lot of the software it's running is the 6100 software. I don't know, this would be something for you to decide. The swappable battery is kind of a cool feature. If they're inexpensive, then it would be nice to have multiple of them that you could just swap it out. And again, their link for Radioddity is in the video description. They often have bundles, so in this case, the spare battery plus the radio is $800, which I've seen that being the standard price for the radio, so getting a spare battery is not a bad deal. Do note as well that this radio advertises as 8 watts. I've only gotten 5 watts out of it. I'm guessing that it requires a power source to be plugged into it. So why don't we just test that and make sure our claims are being met. First things first, I want to see the radio actually say 8 watts or something along those lines before I start breaking out the power meter. So I've given it a 13.8 volt source. If we go back to general and we go to settings, it transmit power defaulted to 1 watt again. I don't know what that's about. What if I hit default? Okay, good. Can I, hey, there it is. So it knows, let me pull the plug. Okay, let me exit and then go back. No, wrong one, this one. Still advertising. Oh, no, it dropped back. Okay, so what happens when we plug it in? And exit and settings. And it should know that I have power now. So you do have to go in and trigger this manually. It doesn't look like it's smart enough to dial it back, but it doesn't look like it's smart enough to amp it up forward. So there you go. I wonder if that was my problem with my single sideband contacts. I was only putting out 1 watt. Well, there's your problem. Now, a very handy feature that I think should be adopted on way more radios is this color stripe that you see across the top of the spectrum display. And those color gradations are noting the mode of operation, but also whom can operate in those spaces. So if you look from 7.175 is where general single sideband exists, and you can see that is this blue stripe. And then below that is this gray stripe, and I believe that's implying amateur extra. And if we scroll down into CW, well, that gray area looks like CW, and this checked area looks to be technician, I think. I think that's what they're doing there. That's pretty cool. So the fact that they're giving you this readout is really, really handy for generals specifically who sometimes don't know if they're in the right area of operation. That's kind of slick. So as long as you keep an eye on this blue area, you know you are good for single sideband. Whoa, single sideband general operation. Who is that? A feature some of you crave and love is kickstands, and I love these little handles too, by the way. But anyway, kickstands. So just go off the back, pop them up, and it'll set it at, I don't know, 45-degree angle from the base to my face. So if you're looking at it like I am right now, perfect operating position. In fact, it was a strain for me to operate with it flat like I was for the video, but in this position, oh man, this is great. Some of the controls being on top are a little bit blind, but I don't know if you caught that while I'm making this video. I'm just reaching up and feeling for, you know, the band select, mode of operations for single sideband, and it's quite intuitive. It's very easy, and I guess PTT a thing too, but you know, we don't really need that. I have to say, I quite enjoyed my time with the X6200. I spent quite a long time just listening to this radio and playing around with it and making QSOs. It's quite a refined radio. And remember, I had the 5105, actually one of my favorite QRP radios, which I used in the beginning of when I was first getting active in Summits on the Air. Quite enjoyed it. It had an issue with overheating, which I'm not... I may test that. I take that back. I'm going to have this long enough that I'm going to take it out for a POTA. So I'll make sure I put it in the sunlight and test that out. So stay tuned for a video on that. But the 5105 had an overheating issue only when it was in direct sunlight. Otherwise, it was fine. And the radio was fantastic. The SWR display, the inbuilt tuner, which all of the features that are in this radio that it carried over from the 6100. 6100 is look and feels wise pretty similar to the 6200. This is a price upper. It is $799, which is not cheap, especially for a QRP radio, but it's got all the flair that you'd want in a type of radio like this, all the features that you're looking for, all the bands you're looking for. And if you were kind of looking for a much more packable radio than, say, a G90, if you had G90-based aspirations and budgets to go along with it, and you had a little bit more money, the 6200 might be the way to go. It is a lot easier to interface with the USB-C. Congratulations on another radio company adopting USB-C for their radios, so big shout out on that one. And the ease of controls is just a little bit, I say little, I meant better than that of the G90. Again, the 6200 was easy to get around, as was the 5105. The G90 kind of strayed from that a little bit with its small screen, gaining 20 watts output, which is nice, but At 5 watts output for the internal battery pack, or 10 if you can play around with the external power a little bit, this is a fine radio for most portable activations and someone that would like to pack light. This size-wise is somewhere between the 705 and the Elecraft KX2. It's closer to the 705 in size and weight, although size-wise, I guess this candy bar style is a little bit closer or more reminiscent to the KX2. So all in all, it's good to have options, and it's a great time to be a ham. There's so many good radios that are out there. I would put this on the list if you're looking for possibly a QRP radio you can take portable. I haven't really thought about this PTT thing, but yeah, it has an internal mic as well, so you can handy-talkie this if you wanted to. Anyway, tell me your thoughts about the 6200 in the comments below. I'm Josh, KI6NAZ. Thanks so much for watching. That's good enough. 73.